ink drinkers, and welcome back to the Blind Girls BookTok podcast. My name is Aria.
And I'm Belle.
And we are two legally blind sisters who love reading and love books. And so what we've done is we've created this show in order to talk about that. We talk about a wide variety of bookish content, and that can range from bad retellings of stories, book-to-movie adaptation comparisons, buddy reads, recent reads, bookish challenges. Really, the list does go on and on. And today is going to be an interesting day because, okay, let's back up, because to explain why we're talking about this topic, we do need to back up a smidge. So back around Thanksgiving time, Belle and I were trying to talk about how to try to fix our Bookstagram, start trying to get that more stable kind of deal, see about trying to grow it more kind of thing, which, of course, if you're listening to this and you're not already, follow us over on Instagram, Blind Girls Books. That's our page. But anyway, so while we were kind of discussing that, Belle had brought up that there was someone that she had stumbled across one of their videos talking about how BookTok and Bookstagram and all of those spaces are turning books into fast fashion. And for me, I was just kind of like, what? I don't understand. And then we watched those videos, and Belle's going to shout out that creator here in a couple of minutes. So we started watching that, and all of a sudden it kind of got to the point where it was like, I just kind of want to talk about this phenomenon and just kind of weigh in on our perspective, because I feel like it's there are a lot of people who are going at it from a analysis perspective, and you need that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that if you look purely at analysis, though, you're missing something. So we are not experts by any way, shape, or form.
Goodness,
we have not done any research.
Nope.
Other than watching a couple videos like this person
Bookstagram
and scrolling through Bookstagram. So these are our opinions about this. That's what this all boils down to. This is how we see it. This is our opinions. You are free to have a different one. That is fine. But this is what we just wanted to talk about. So go ahead and kind of kick this off a little bit, Belle.
Well, shout out to, according to, I think it's Elena, Alina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she is the one who, I saw her video, TikTok's overconsumption problem, is BookTok just as bad? And then we found one she previously made, and she said, I made this previously, go watch that one. And we did.
So, okay. It's been a while since I've watched this video because, like I said, we had this conversation back at Thanksgiving. At the time of recording, it is Christmas. So
it is the legit Christmas Eve.
It is legit Christmas Eve. So I remember broad strokes, but I don't remember little bits and pieces of it all. I feel like the one thing that she was kind of saying was how books have become the fashion part, how there used to be on YouTube, it was a big thing for vloggers.
Oh, the overconsumption problem.
Yes. And yes. It was they would have hauls, of clothing or makeup, or depending on kind of what niche they were in.
Black Friday hauls, or
different things.
We're from America. What I got for Christmas haul, things like that.
Yeah, or not even. Just there were some that were just
there were some that just went out and
just bought stuff. And then they would make a haul video. And she was talking about how that's transferred over to books in the BookTube space and the Bookstagram space, and how people feel like in order to keep up, they need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week on books. And going through all of that and saying that, you know, essentially, I think at one point in time, she was kind of like, you could just get a library card. Like, you could just go to the library and like all of your problems would be solved. Like, I don't think she actually said that, to be fair, but that's me trying to remember it. That's how I took it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I know you had some points with that.
I mean, okay, I have some points. I agree with the whole book haul point that she made. Do I necessarily believe that is contributing to overconsumption and fast fashion into books? I'm not 100% sold. Do I see some similarities between fast fashion and books now? Yes.
See, my thing is that I think there are some that do fall into more of the fast fashion, but as a whole, I don't think there are a lot of books that do, especially for like indie authors that their book just kind of blows up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if it's like a author whose book just kind of blows up overnight, like what happened recently this year with Fourth Wing.
Well, no, Fourth Wing is different. I'm coming back to Fourth Wing. I'm talking more like, well, we just talked about Plated Prisoner. I don't think it was this year. I think it was over the course of last year and this year. But like Plated Prisoner, I think started out as indie and all of a sudden it blew up.
Okay.
Butcher and Blackbird, I think, is indie.
See, I don't even know what counts as indie anymore. I get confuzzled. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, okay, this is a bad metric. I will admit this, but most of the time what I equate to indie is if it's on Kindle Unlimited, and then if it goes away from Kindle Unlimited and you have to pay for it.
Shout out to Butcher and Blackbird.
Shout out to Butcher. Shout out to Plated Prisoner, because it also too was on Kindle Unlimited, and now it's not. Now you have to pay for the books. I'm trying to think of people who's really blown up this year that didn't do like traditional publishing, to my knowledge. I don't know. See, I don't pay attention to a lot of stuff.
I don't either. I barely pay attention to the authors' names. The only time I paid attention to authors' names is when we started this channel.
Yes.
That's the only time and the only reason I pay attention to authors' names. Not that I don't care about y'all, because I do. You're amazing humans. Keep up the work. Love it. Go you. But like, I'm sorry. I got too much going on in my brain.
Yeah.
I may read your name. I am never going to remember it.
No.
Never.
9 times out of 10, I forget authors.
The
quickly.
author I knew for the longest time, unless like it's classic author, but the only author that I knew for the longest time was Marcus Zusak, just because I thought his name was so fun to say.
Yeah. So now back to the fast fashion though. Fourth Wing, I do think falls into fast fashion.
Yeah.
And here's why. So Fourth Wing, I want to say it blew up. It came onto the scene late last year. Was it? I want to say it was late last year, like very beginning of the year this year.
See, I didn't see anything until like
I heard rumblings.
August.
I heard rumblings, and that's the thing. I feel like I hear rumblings of stuff a lot sooner than you do.
We're going to get to me and my gripe with social media on this too. I'm going to get heated. Fair warning. Yeah, I don't hear things until it's like blown up. Like there are some that I'll hear before it like goes crazy. Like I'll catch it like early and then it will later blow up. And I'm like, I have no clue how that happened. But like, okay.
Yeah.
Fourth Wing was one. It came out of left field after... It was probably in what, like September-ish? that I
wanna say
started
it was-
asking about it.
I want to
September,
say
October-ish.
Yeah, I want to say it was after we moved. So I think it was September, October timeline.
I know I got it in October because I know that was my treat for completing midterms.
Yes. So we actually bought the book for you.
Yeah, I actually bought the book because
And-
I was peer pressured.
So like
Not by social media, but also by other people in
Yes.
my life. Like actual human beings.
yes, yeah, one of my friends was very much a proponent of Fourth Wing, you need to check it out, that kind of thing. Now, the book came out, I want to say it was like November. The second book, Iron Flame.
Literally, I got the first book 2 weeks later. The second book was out. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it was like end of October, beginning of November. The second book comes out, Iron Flame comes out. I happened to be scrolling and I saw someone who was like, the prose is not good. Like, this just seems really poorly written. This seems like it was written so quickly and it needed more time. And it almost seems like AI wrote this. And now that was their opinion. I know nothing about that. I have not read Iron Flame. I'm probably not going to read it for a very, very long time because I have qualms with Fourth Wing. We'll talk about that another day.
Yeah. Also, I know Aria has posted that I've read the book. I have not yet. I'm getting there.
Because I think when you posted it, you were like getting started in it and then it just didn't happen.
I was like opening the book and I was like,
You made a liar of me.
nope. All the nope.
So I don't know. I cannot make, a judgment call on Iron Flame. I can only say about Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing to me was like, it was okay. I feel like I'm missing something because everybody else is like, this is so good. And I'm like, but I'm not quite vibing with it as much as everybody else is. So like, I think that's my one thing a lot of times about books that are popular on Bookstagram, BookTok, BookTube is that 9 times out of 10, I'm not vibing with the book that everybody's like, I'm in love. Like, for every one book that I really, really like that is popular on Bookstagram, BookTok, BookTube, there are like 20 others that I'm like, no. For every one that I like. Because I think, what did we say? Love Hypothesis?
Love Hypothesis
Was a big one.
was a big one you liked.
Assistant to the Villain.
Assistant to the Villain.
I really loved Assistant to the Villain. But compared to that, like, Fourth Wing, meh. Caraval, Carnival, whatever that series is,
I have a gripe with that series.
that to me, I DNF'd it like a chapter, not even a chapter.
Literally, I got that book, and before this book blew up, I had the first copy of that book. This is another one. I've had the first copy of this book because this happened with the Court of Thorns and Roses too. I had the first copy of that book. Blows up. I tried to read Caraval, whatever it is. I don't really care. Sorry, author, if this ever gets to you. Not my cup of tea. But it was like a circus thing, and I'm like, oh, Aria likes Night Circus. She'd like this.
I couldn't get through the beginning. I feel like if I would have pushed a little further, I would have been like, okay, I can vibe with this. But for the most part, I was like, I can't do this. I just can't. So like, there are some things that I'm like, okay, yes, I can see where you could get the fast fashion of this. Like, especially with those kind of thoughts. How I said someone had thoughts about Iron Flame and very strong opinions. I can see that. But at the same time, I feel like the only way I can say that the book world will truly turn into fast fashion is if everything starts being written by AI.
Yeah.
And I don't want that.
I do not want that either.
I really do not want that.
I don't either. Like, I'm sad when, like, some books are going to take a while to come out. I will say that. I'm just an impatient person. Like,
Yeah.
time does not compute in my head. I'm impatient. I have been since I was a child. It's nothing new. Nobody's going to change it. It is what it is. But, like, I'd rather wait for something and it be good, even though I may complain about waiting, than get something early and it just not, especially with my books.
Yeah. Then it not hit. Like, that's the thing. Like, out of all the people that I'm thinking of that I read that I have like physical copies, like Assistant to the Villain, I think Apprentice to the Villain comes out next summer, like 2024 summer.
Well, the next one, to Butcher and Blackbird,
that comes out in the summer, I think.
Yeah.
The Thursday Murder Club, his last book I think came out in, I want to say it was like September, October, maybe November timeframe, somewhere in there, like towards the end of this year. He normally does like a book a year. So if there's more to the series, which I have not got through the newest book yet, so hopefully there will be more. But you do have to give time for like writers to write. Like, I'm 100% for giving that time. Like, a lot of times I'll just find something else to like fill the void until I can read what I want to read.
Yeah, and like,
or I'll do a reread.
Yeah. I don't know. I think another thing with it is we're going into the next point she had, and this is my big one. Get ready for my complaining, because it's going to come, and it's going to come hard.
Oh, dear.
And it is about social media changing how readers read.
Yes.
I have talked about this to Aria privately. Heck, I went on a rant last night. It has. I don't care who you are. At this point, social media has influenced how I read.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I don't like what I have become. I'm not okay with it. And it's not saying that that's not for everyone. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me personally, I don't like what I've kind of been turning into, so to speak. And like, does social media have some good things? Yes. And like, is it nice that, you know, book lovers have these platforms to be able to connect to one another? Yes. Not arguing with that at all. I think it's great. No problems there. What my issue is, and she brought this up in another one of her videos, I think it was the one before the overconsumption, according to Elena brought up, and she mentioned about how reading goals and productivity.
Yes.
I did not think I was like that, but holy crap.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, we're going to be talking about our reading goals next episode. So this is kind of like an unofficial 2-part episode, because next episode is going to be more just us, like, just talking about what we read this year and like what goals we're going to set up for ourselves for 2024. So here's my problem. It's one of those things where, do I think that social medias have influenced what I read? To an extent, yes. I do think that I've given a lot more like fantasy romances a chance, a lot more romances in general a chance, because it is something that I've seen recommended on Instagram, or, you know, it's just kind of shown up in my reel. Like, you know, I'm not arguing that. My thing is that when it comes to the productivity, reading goal, that kind of thing, I think I've always, and this might just be a me thing, but like, I've always had the thing where if I might set a goal for myself. If I make it, great. If I don't, great. If I surpass it, even better. And if not, it ain't the end of the world. I'm very much I'll say this just to like throw it out into the universe, but like, I almost prefer to not really set a goal, but just count what I do. You know what I mean? 'Cause like, I remember like back when I was in like middle school, my principal would like have a reading contest with me about who could read more books over the summer. And I would just keep trying. Like, it wasn't like I was like trying to speed read or anything like that. But I was just, going through and reading books, over the summer and doing what I love to do. And then I would come back the next year and be like, hey, this is how many books I read. And she would be like, wow, that's crazy. I only read this many. And granted, I was a kid. I was a middle schooler. So like our books are not the same, and that's okay. But like looking at my list of like all the books that I read, there's a lot of like, I didn't pick them necessarily that way, but some were just novellas that I read. Like there's probably like a third of what I read that are like novellas. I have my audio books. Some are longer, some are shorter. It's not me reading however many like 500-page books. I don't think you necessarily need to do that either if you don't want to. If you want to read a huge in-depth series, go for it. And if you only read that huge in-depth series over the course of the year, you do you. Like, you chase your happiness. I think that's where I am with it. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think I'm just on the opposite spectrum.
You are in a very different place.
I am in a very different place, and it is becoming a lot of anger.
Yes. You haven't learned yet to, like, just live and let go of this kind of things, like of for fun things. Mm-mm. This is something that you struggle with all the time.
It's everything. I don't live and let go. I let stew until I break.
Yes.
And then I have a major meltdown, and then it's fine, and I go back to stewing, and then I'll boil over again, and it's a cycle.
Yes.
But I think I mentioned this in another episode. Whenever I read in high school, and pretty much every year up until now, like until this past year, I have never counted what I read. I have not counted how many books I go through. I've never done that. Never did. And I can't even tell you how many books I went through. Because there were times where I'd go through a book a day. There were times I'd go through a book every 2-3 days. So, like, I can't even give an estimate of how many books I've read in, like, a year during those times. And for me, I found that just so much, I think, better. Because now I know how many books I've read. And I see what other people have read and how many of they have read. And I look at my lower number and I'm just like, I feel like such a failure. And I don't think it's meant to even be like that.
But that's what you're putting on it, though.
But that's what my mind transfers it as.
Right. See, and this is where we're different. Because, like, I looked back when I was totaling. Last night we had a conversation about this. And I was going through and I was trying to total up how many books I've read this year so far. And I think, what did I say it was? A little bit over 200?
Yeah, probably.
I think it was.
Around about 200-ish.
200-ish, which is way more than I thought I would. And we'll talk about that next week. But I was like looking through and there were 3 months where I only read 5 to 8 books. Like, that's all I read. I read 5 books one month, 5 books another month, and 8 books the third month. And that's when we were moving. Things were crazy. I couldn't really read. That was when I was also kind of going through my reading slump a little bit. I was not in a good place reading-wise for those couple months. And not gonna lie, when I did the Instagram posts to do my reading, my monthly wrap-up, that's when I felt bad. Because normally I have at least in the high teens, low 20s, is my average, I would say. But for that one, to only have 5 books, that's all I had. So, like, I can see feeling that anger at yourself and, like, that disappointment with yourself for reading a low number. But also, like, I knew there was no physical way for it to happen without me just putting myself even into more of a reading slump. And because we do this podcast and stuff, like I need to be very cognizant of going into reading slumps because we talk about books every week.
Yeah.
We try to spread things out so it's not, we're always reading all the time, and that's, again, we want this show to be fun. So
Correction, Belle's not always reading all the time.
Well, Belle's not always reading all the time. I do read a little bit more than Belle does. But even then, I know I need to give myself some breaks. An episode that's coming up next year is a book to movie comparison. I have moved that book to movie comparison around about 12 different times.
Oh, yeah. Like, this was supposed to come out last year.
This was supposed to come out this past year in 2023. I think at the beginning of 2023.
It was, yeah.
And then it moved to the middle of 2023.
And then it moved to the end.
It moved to the end of 2023.
And now it's into 2024.
And now it's into the beginning of 2024. And I finally have gotten my stuff together, mostly. I still have to finish watching the movie. But, like, it's that kind of thing. Like, there are, I have to make sure that I'm making myself, or not making myself, but like that I have enough gas in the tank to keep reading. And I can't do that if I'm in a horrid reading slump.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those, I get it. And maybe it's also because I'm older too. Like, I'm just like, you know what? Forget it. Like,
I think it's also my overachiever.
Yeah.
Because, like, once I say in next episode, like, around how many books I read, everybody's going to be mad at me. Story of my life. This happens on a daily with law school. I will say my grade. Well, what was the highest? I'll say it. You were just below that. Why are you complaining?
Yeah.
Because it's not the highest.
Yeah.
It's the overachiever in me, and I know it is. And I'm trying to work on it.
Well, no, and it's you, so it's something that you just have to fundamentally shift.
Yeah.
And, like, that's going to take a very long time and lots of therapy, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah. But, like, I noticed in, like, my reading, I have gone, from the beginning of this podcast, I have said I do not like romance. All I have read this year has been romance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I hated it all, because I liked a lot. Like, there were books that I really liked. But now looking back, I'm like, this isn't me.
Yeah. And
this isn't me. Why? Like, I feel like looking at it, social media has peer pressured me into it. Because I'll get, like, those little, like, lines from the book, and I'm like, this is kind of funny. So I'll read it for that one, like, little tiny, like, 4 lines that I know.
Yeah, and see, like, I've stopped getting any of those kind of recommendations of the just like the little snippets of the book. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been quite some time since I've gotten one because it's very few and far between. And when it does come up, it's not one that's interesting to me. Like, it's not one that I'm like, I need to do this right now. Like I was telling Belle before we recorded this, I've been reading romance for a solid 2 years. And normally I go through this genre switch where I will read a genre, like stay solid in that genre for a couple years. And then I need to switch it up and I need to go to a different genre. I think that's just a cycle for me. It's not something I've ever realized I did until now. But the more I think about it, the more that's accurate for me. So I'm thinking that maybe next year I'm going to maybe try to do some more like cozies, because I've been really trying to find some good cozies that I would be interested in. If you are listening to this and you can leave a comment somewhere, please comment some of your cozies that you like, because I need those. You know what I mean? I need the cozies. I need some good mysteries that are very entertaining, because a lot of the mysteries I've come across are, they're not quite for me. They don't check the boxes that I want to check. And I can't even say what boxes they are. I just know they don't check them. You know, it's that kind of stuff. And I think I do need to just switch genres for a little bit. and maybe it will all get better, but I don't know.
Yeah. For me, there are things that social media is making it that I'm just, especially influencing me, that I'm just not okay with anymore. And I can't. Like, I feel like I'm becoming a different person. Not saying I don't like certain romances, because I do.
I think it's everything in moderation.
I think that's what it is.
I think that's going to be the way to fix your problems that you're having.
Yeah, because, like, at this point, I'm just so frustrated. And I have a stack of books I want to read and get through before I start school again. I don't want to touch them. Like, I really don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much about my book stacks because that's going to be for next week's episode. But I do know your pain. I do feel that pain.
Because I don't know. It's a bit frustrating in my opinion, for me personally. And I mean, I'm not saying that this is wrong. Because I know there are some people on Instagram who are real mad about the book world is becoming. They need to go somewhere.
Oh, yeah. There was some guy who was... I don't even remember the guy's name.
I ain't even giving a shout out if I even knew it.
Yeah.
Don't deserve it.
Yeah, who was just complaining about the fact that spicy books are everywhere and what are we coming to as a society. And it was just like, no, sorry, my guy. Spicy books have always been there. Spicy books will continue to be there. They exist, and like, there's no difference. It's nothing new. And just because they're like all over Bookstagram or BookTok doesn't necessarily mean anything. Because again, you can like, I've seen a lot of people recently who are like, I'm here for clean romances. And I'm like, you know what? You do you. I like me a good clean romance once in a while. It's a nice palate cleanser. It's a nice palate cleanser. I mean, like, I loved the cheat sheet. That is a clean romance. That Hot Pursuit series that I talked about earlier this year, which I'll talk about later again. That one was also clean romances.
They exist,
and there's some that I'm very interested in reading, like that I've come across. There is nothing wrong with a good clean romance. There's nothing wrong with a good spicy romance. I feel like people are trying to put you into a box and just be like, this is what you read, and so this is what's going on, and this, and this. And that's where I have a problem. Because just because I'm a monster romance girly does not mean I don't like a good mystery. You know what I mean? Like, just because I like a spicy romance doesn't mean that I don't like this other thing too. Like, everybody puts it to extremes, and I think that's what gets me mad. Because a lot of times the extremes are the outliers. Otherwise, you're just floating around in space, just la 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 in the middle. Like, yeah. And everybody is like, you have to be one way or the other. No, you don't. You can also just live your life in the middle and be happy. You don't need to be on one extreme or the other to not be happy.
That's why, like, when anybody asks me what I like to read, I will read anything I can get my hands on that interests me.
That's honestly a good way to put it.
Now, does that mean I tend to stay away from certain things? Sci-fi? Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't catch my attention.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can dislike a genre for sure. I'm not a big sci-fi person. I'm not a big horror person. I mean, I don't do nonfiction. But just because, you know, there are certain things that I don't like doesn't mean that there are, like, in the genres that I like, that, like, I must do all this all the time. Like, no. If I want a good fiction, just general fiction book, I'm gonna read it. If I want my spicy romance, I'm gonna take it. Like, you know what I mean? That's where I think I get so frustrated with just book social medias as a whole. They want you to be all or nothing. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be all or nothing, because that would be boring. Like, that would get boring after a while. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm kind of coming to with it all.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're not experts. These are just our opinions. You are free to have a different one. You are free to think ours is wrong. That's fine.
You
But
are free to read whatever your little heart desires.
Exactly.
I really
You
do
can read
not
fan
care.
fictions all day, and that is totally fine. You live your best life. But that's just it. You do what makes you happy, and as long as you are not hurting yourself or anybody else, we're good. Like,
Honestly.
that's literally the bar for me. You do whatever makes you happy, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, we're fine. Like, you do you, boo.
Yep.
So, that being said, we want to thank you for coming along today as we talked about books, social media as a whole, and got real deep.
Join us next week when we do something really similar.
Well, if you like this episode, if you like what you've been listening to, please consider following the podcast and sharing the episode with your friends. It really would help us to grow the show, and we would appreciate the support of those actions. And then, like I said, next time, again, this is kind of a tie-in. We're going to be talking about what we read over the past year, our reading goals for next year, that kind of thing. So, that being said, we will see you guys next time. Bye.